Hello, and welcome to our Strasz Assessment Systems podcast, Beyond the Test, Strasz Talks. I'm your host, Dr. Roy McCorkle, and I'm really excited about our conversation today. As we have done in past years, we like to give a preview of key events upcoming in the testing industry, and indeed, there is no bigger event during the spring than the ATP Innovations Conference. And I am pleased to be joined by two of the folks that you will see a bit of at that conference. Paul Muir, who is the Chief Customer Officer at Riser and this year's ATP Board Chair, and Melissa Nozick, the CEO of the Competency and Credentialing Institute, also known as CCI, and she is this year's ATP Conference Chair. Melissa and Paul, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Rory. It's great to be
Rory.
here.
Well, you are both familiar faces to anyone who has watched the past episodes of the podcast. So I'll give you each a chance to introduce yourself. Paul, do you want to take it away first here?
Sure, thanks, Rory. So I'm Paul Muir. I'm the Chief Customer Officer at Riser, and as Rory already said, I'm the ATP Board Chair for 2026. I spent the last 25 years in assessment, which makes me feel really old when I start looking back at it. And many times my children ask me, "How old are you, Daddy? What number are you?" So I just make up a number. So we'll go with different numbers I make up through this podcast, I think. But I'm really looking forward to ATP. It's I'm chair this year. I've been involved with ATP in the various organisation parts and committees for the last probably 6 or 7 years. And I know New Orleans is going to be a fantastic conference, and the work we're doing at ATP for the rest of the year is going to be fantastic, and we'll talk more about that as we go through the podcast.
Thanks, Paul. And Melissa.
Hi, everybody. As Rory already mentioned, I am the CEO at CCI, and by way of history, I am a credentialing, certification, and assessment nerd for about the past 15 years. My formal academic training was in behavior analysis, which was the gateway drug to assessment, because I got to work for the certification board in my industry, and then moved on to really have an interest in certification and assessment, and ended up here at CCI. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, thank you both. And thanks in advance for the work that you all have done and are doing for ATP and the Innovations Conference, respectively. Having been a past board chair and conference chair, I know what amount of work it is as a volunteer. So, on behalf of the industry, thank you for that. Let's get into the conference and what we have to look forward to in just a couple of weeks in New Orleans. The theme this year, every year for the Innovations and Testing Conference, has a theme either building on the past or really innovating, if you will. And this year's is celebrating people, progress, and possibilities. So tell me about that, Melissa. What led to that theme?
Well, so we were in the planning meeting. So this group of people, they come together in the city, the host city for our conference. And it is almost like the month following the conclusion of the previous year's event. So we all found ourselves in May of last year in New Orleans. And the planning team is actually made up of division chairs, the ATP staff, of which there are only 3, a meeting event planning group, and that is Canvas Events, and then the conference committee. So I would say there's typically between 13 and 18 people sitting around a table, and you're going through over the course of 2 days, like item by item, and item 1 on the list is always theme. So when we went into theme discussion this year, I had taken sort of the current trends happening in the industry. I used AI to help me a little with some draft themes based on New Orleans. And then the work group, or the planning group, we sort of, I was just going down the line, and some of them were like, no, no, no. And then when we landed on people, progress, possibilities, one of the planning team members was like, that works. We really like it. And the reason that it worked was because, as AI continues to automate in our industry a lot of our tasks, the one thing that we felt we gain when we come together for the innovations conference is having all of our people together and being able to think and brainstorm. That is where we feel like the real progress is made, and innovation comes to life. And so people, progress, possibilities weren't just abstract concepts, they were intentional, because when we come together as industry, think tank type activities, that's where innovation happens. And I would say the durable skills that we use at conferences is going to become a currency for job seekers. So coming together, talking to new people, meeting new people, and having ideas abate against each other and innovate, I think is a place where I'm putting some of my budgetary spending in the future. And so that's where people, progress, possibilities came to life.
Well, I love that, and love both the story of how that came about and has been guiding the conference committee for this year.
Mhm.
That's fantastic. Well, of course, for some attendees at the Innovations in Testing Conference, they might see that as the embodiment or the totality of ATP. But of course, this conference is only one aspect of both ATP's events and the outreach that's done as a global association, a trade association for the testing industry. So, Paul, I know first off, you recently got back from IATP, the India ATP gathering. So that's going to be fresh in your mind. But how do you see this year's innovations conference as supporting the broader ATP agenda for this year as you take the mantle of board chair?
Yeah, I was going to say before, obviously, India ATP, I think ATP Innovations Conference, it's called, almost is like the engine room for ATP. So I think a lot of it is our biggest conference, is our biggest, I guess, external outreach event that we do as an organization, but it's not the only thing we do, as you say. And I think, as you said, we've just come back from India ATP, which has had over 200 people attend. I think for the second time since COVID, since it was reconstituted since COVID, and it was fantastic to see so much thought, innovation, discussion happening around what's affecting India. And I think sometimes people think that the ATP is just an American organization with talking about American issues, and there's the danger that can become sort of self-promoting in itself. But actually, we have India ATP. I think you've touched already. We have European ATP taking place in September this year, or October this year, sorry, in Rome. We have Asia ATP, which normally takes place around November time as well. So we have a truly global community and a truly global set of volunteers we'll talk about later on, which means we can address issues that are both global at our conferences, but also we can localize them for our community and for the issues that are impacting those parts of the world. So I think, and outside of that as well, you've also got all of our committees we have. We have security committees. We have different committees and special interest groups meeting all throughout the year as well. So ATP, while the Innovations Conference is a huge event and is a really important event for us, it isn't all we do. And I think as people get more involved, they get to see what we do, the impact we have, the influence we have on government decisions, on policy, on other organizations who we partner with throughout the world as well. So it's not just about one conference for 3.5 days. I think it is in a year. It's a huge amount of work that goes on throughout the year. And as Melissa's already mentioned, we're supported by 3 full-time staff, which is people I think sometimes forget about, that it is all about the volunteers. And I know we're going to talk about volunteers later on, but the work that the ATP staff do and our supporting team from Canvas is fantastic to make sure that we can deliver those conferences that I've just mentioned.
I really appreciate that, Paul. And I think, there's no greater highlight than some of the things that ATP has already released this year, like a new publication on AI and the continued work to promote things like the coffee chats and other areas to gather. So there's already been great examples of that continued outreach already in the year, and certainly appreciate the guidance and of course as we'll talk about later, as already mentioned, the workforce that supports that as a volunteer workforce. Well, every year, Melissa, as you know well, since you've been involved now in several planning meetings, we always see some tweaks and some new elements with
Yeah.
regard to the conference. Some of the new features this year include the ATP Discovery Zone. We also are going to have the uh, I'll call it the reintroduction, since they've appeared before, but not for a while, of the Ignite session structure. Share more about what some of the conscious changes were that the committee made this year, those that you think are notable and that you're excited about in terms of how they're going to evolve and assist the continued evolution of the conference.
Yeah, sure thing. It's sort of funny because as we're in the planning meeting, we have a range of people in that meeting from they're just beginning to participate in conference planning or they've been on the committee for a couple of years. And I was just joking because Erin Highlander Williams from ATP, she's been involved in this conference planning for the over a decade probably, and she's seen different volunteers come and go and bringing probably the same ideas at times. Like we're also doing workshops this year. It's something that we used to do. This year it'll be a modification of past workshops, but I was just joking. It must sound like Groundhog's Day, as ideas come and go, and then they come back. But it's all about adapting to audience and changing times, right? So we do have some new things coming this year, and the ATP's Discovery Zone. Paul, I almost think that this was your idea at the planning meeting because there was like a bit of a proof of concept, if you want to call it, at one of the other ATP conferences before the planning meeting. So Paul brought that idea and it stuck. And so the ATP Discovery Zone, I don't know, Paul, do you want to share a little bit more about what it's intended to look like?
Yeah, so it's a great initiative that's supported by one of our sort of partners called Teamco, who are actually based out of the UK. And we're going to have a room or an area of the conference venue with about 30 computers in it. And people who are going to present in there will have a chance to showcase some innovations that people have a chance to sort of get hands on, test them, probably not try and break them, but you know what people are like. So they probably will break them at some point, and someone can blame the internet or something along the lines, or beignets or something along the line. But it's a great idea. It's something we actually did at Dublin at the EATP conference just gone in October last year. And we also I used to be involved with an organisation called the E-Assessment Association, and we did it successfully there in London for a couple of years as well. So it's something that is always really popular because it's not a sales pitch. It be really clear. People are going to come along to it. You're not going to be sold a product. You're going to have a chance to play with a new AI simulation tool for surgeons, or you're going to have a chance to use a new language testing model or something. So it's a really, really good thing to do if you've got time. And it's done in a nice, friendly, non-sales way. So
Yeah, so it's an opportunity to sort of interact with new tech and see what's happening in different professions. That's cool. The other item that you mentioned, Rory, was the Ignite sessions. And Liberty Munson actually brought that back to the conference program. She is our program vice chair this year. And when she mentioned it, we said, why don't we give it a try? And so we do have some Ignite sessions on the program. I'm really excited about the Ignite session because they tend to be like energetic. They're fast paced, and we are following the Ignite rules, which means you can't advance the slide without, like, you have to wait. And it takes some practice to make sure you get the timing exactly right with the advancement of slides. So we're trying to adhere to the true Ignite session rules. And this will be the first time since I've been on the conference committee that we've had Ignite sessions as a part of the program. So it's quite a bit of fun. And then the workshops, they are back on the last day of the conference. And it's not your typical model where anybody can just submit a workshop topic or idea. The planning committee actually identified topics that may need some additional time or to be highlighted at the conference. And members register for a very low rate, and it is the last afternoon. So Wednesday afternoon, there will be a couple of workshops added, and we'll see how that goes as well.
Well, all exciting stuff, and I would be remiss to not thank Paul because Strasz will also be there as one of the platforms to be featured in the Discovery Zone. So we're excited about it too, and sharing an innovation that we have in that area. So, we've mentioned this now a couple times, but always important to mention, the Innovations Conference, or pretty much any conference in our space, but particularly Innovations, would not be possible without a absolute massive volunteer workforce. Of course, you and Melissa are volunteers, and indeed, I know typically we have hundreds of people who engage in ways, whether it's reviewing program proposals, coordinating sessions, more substantial commitments like serving on the executive committee, so on and so forth. So, share a little bit more, Paul, from your perspective as board chair. How do you see volunteers being integral to both supporting the conference, and what are you hoping for them to not only take from that experience, but maybe roll into other volunteering for ATP?
Well, I think volunteering for ATP is the ultimate test of character, and I absolutely mean for there to be a pun there as well. So, no, it is a really, really good opportunity for people to get involved. And you've already mentioned in your introduction to that question, I think some of the things I was going to say as well. Around it is hundreds of people, and it's not 5 people in an afternoon saying let's do a conference. It's a huge, as Middles has already said, sort of 11-month effort. And as soon as the one conference finishes, you're into the next cycle. So I know already that I think for 27 there's already the planning meetings in place for that already. So it's a lot of work. But they are literally the backbone of ATP. We've mentioned already that G, Erin, and Nina are the three sort of full-time ATP staff members. But yeah, there are hundreds of people, whether that's session coordinators, whether that's people who are reviewing all the sessions. So the sessions you see have been through multiple reviews, multiple um, uh, iterations. There's some. Lots of sessions have also been rejected. Not because they're not good, but because there are so many topics and things that need to be discussed. So all of that's done by volunteers, again supported by Canvas and supported by Erin, Nina, and G. And it really does sort of make it, because of that, it makes it a conference for the industry by the industry as well, which I think is really, really good. It's not being moderated or sifted through by a sort of faceless corporate entity who says that's a good session, that will make more money, that won't. It's actually, what do we want to hear from people who are involved in the industry, who've got combined thousands of years experience. All those volunteers put together, it's probably thousands, tens of thousands of years of experience in testing together. And I think that's what makes it such a really good thing. And I think I got involved as a volunteer, I think years, 6-7 years ago. I think someone sort of mentioned get involved and just start getting involved with the ATP. And then I think about 4 years ago I got involved with the security committee, was chair of that up until last year, and now you come off that. So there's so many opportunities for people to get involved, depending how you want to get involved, how much time you've got, and what your passion is, I guess, what your focus is. There's AI focus groups, there are technology-based assessment focus groups, which we come up with new guidelines there. There's equity, which obviously is an interesting topic, I think, currently in the US as well. If I'm allowed to say that. Being non-US, I can, I think. It's interesting to see. I was interested when I looked at the program. Are we going to avoid that this year? Are we, because of all the pressures around what we're hearing, do we avoid that topic? And actually, no, they're there, and actually they're calling it out in the program, which is again really important, I think, for us as a community, that we continue to talk about the things that other people don't want to talk about. So I think that all comes from the volunteers and comes from those people who put that program together. So we hope that it's a program that people really, really buy into, really enjoy. And I think we've obviously, registration is still open. We'll talk about that a bit later on. But if you haven't registered already, do register, because we've got new sessions that Melissa talked about, or revised sessions, Ignite sessions. We've got some really good little outside of the sessions as well. We have lots of activities happening outside of the main sessions, the main program as well. So I think people should look out for those. We might touch on those a little bit later on. So I'll leave a little teaser there for that for later on.
Thank you, Paul. And Melissa, how about you? Of course, for folks who don't know, when in your role as conference chair, you've been through a 4-year progression of program vice chair, program chair, conference vice chair, now conference chair. So, of course, it gives you a lot of background, as well as a lot of insight to the depth required of contributions from volunteers. Share a little bit more about how you've seen that impact the conference.
Yeah. I think it is the system that has been designed to ensure some historic knowledge as you go into conference years has been so important. So as Rory mentioned, you come in Liberty's role this year is the vice chair of program. And there's a vice chair of program, there's a chair of program, a vice chair of conference, and a chair of conference. And then we have a marketing committee. So there's these 6 individuals that sort of are making things happen behind the scenes between weekly meetings. So every meeting there is every week there is a meeting of a group, whether it's the conference group, the executive committee, the program committee, or marketing committee. And each one of those groups is full of volunteers. So I think amongst those committees themselves, there are over 60 volunteers just working on those committees outside of the core 6 people. And as you progress over the years, you see, how the conference comes together, and it really is a system and a process. And I still am learning each year, because we try to make sure that we have a balance of program representatives and vendor representatives, so that we can speak from both of those perspectives and make sure we're not making any changes that might impact either the program attendees, vendor attendees, sponsors, because those are the people that the conference, runs from, or the people that contribute to it in that way. So this system is a good one. And despite the system going into my chair year, I was like, oh gosh. I think in December, I counted over 80 hours of meetings, purely the meeting part. And there's a lot that happens outside of the meeting. So if you're a person that ever gets asked, do you want to take on the commitment of going on to one of those core 6 positions, it isn't an insubstantial amount of time that you spend. But let me tell you, it's been one of the best experiences of my professional career to serve on these committees and get to help put this together and understand more about the industry, the people that operate in the industry, and the unlimited resources you acquire by doing this work. Resources and people is what I mean. There is a person that can help me with just about anything I need. So
As we come to a close, first off, once again, thank you. And for those who might be interested in attending the ATP Innovations in Testing Conference, please go to innovationsintesting.org to get more information. Conference registration is still open. But with that said, what are you most looking forward to personally? And also, what's the key reason why folks should sign up at this point? And Paul, I'll ask you that question first and then move to Melissa.
I think we touched on it already. I think the Discovery Zone, I think, is going to be really interesting and really exciting to see new innovations. I like new technology. Anyone who knows me personally, when I'm a geek, and I like anything that's new and innovative, and a chance to sort of try and break the norm, I think is something that's that sort of question, that childish why sort of question, like mentality is where I come from. So I love that sort of thing. And I think there are so many different sessions. There are so many great sessions. I think there are hundreds and hundreds of sessions for people to come to. So you'll find something that you are interested in, and you'll find multiple sessions you're interested in. You'll struggle, like I do every year, to find what can I go to and what can't I go to, and actually how can I go and find someone else who actually went to that session, so I can find out what actually happened there. Because that's the thing. And I think one of the biggest things, again, which that alludes to, is that networking part of it. There are sessions. There are great vendors to go and talk to about new technologies in the exhibition hall. But it's that networking that you might do, and as Melissa said, either in the welcome receptions, the hallways for 20 minutes, you might solve a year's problems in a 20-minute chat with someone that you haven't seen for a year. So that side of things, meeting new friends, meeting old friends even, and making new friends and making new acquaintances is one thing, I think. And also, I think in one of my posts on LinkedIn, I think I promised I'd do a board chairs ice cream tour. So I'm not sure if two people have reminded me that already. So that's still there. So I've checked out the ice cream stores in New Orleans, and there's an ice cream tour somewhere there one of the evenings. So we'll have to find ways of publicizing that. But yeah, let's go and do that.
Well, now you've put it in a recording, so I'll be looking out for that there, Paul. Melissa,
I love
that.
Well, Paul's looking forward to ice cream. I'm looking forward to beignets, but probably okay, I'll get to the serious part of this. But first of all, the Mardi Gras theme, it like gives you like the carte blanche to like bring your sparkles with you to the conference, and if you have sparkly attire, don that at the conference. But the thing I love about being in NOLA and Mardi Gras is that I'm sure some of you do this like in your personal life, is that when you're stuck on a thought or you need to be creative, maybe you get into a creative space. You go for a walk outside and you think about it. I think Mardi Gras marries like in this very smart, forward thinking crowd of innovators with play. And play is often what brings about new ideas, creative ideas. It inspires us to do things differently. And I think that the city of New Orleans serves that sort of purpose. So I feel like this is a conference that all of the pieces are there to lead to creativity and innovation in a way that is even catapulted forward, more forward than we have had in other spaces. So that's what I'm excited about.
And I've just
Well, we
realised I forgot one thing. I'm sitting here in a shirt that actually, if people can tell, I've actually got like dash hounds on it. So I should have said, when Rory said, "What are you most excited about?" I
Oh
should have said,
yeah,
I should have said puppies, because then Liberty will get,
yes,
at the moment when I'll be shouting, going yes. So we're literally bringing puppies to ATP as well for the first time.
yeah,
So if you're feeling stressed, and you want to de-stress, or you just like dogs or puppies, then you can go and cuddle some puppies, and that will help
yeah.
solve all your problems. So, if for nothing else, come and cuddle 10 or 12 cute puppies on the day, and all your world's sort of worries will disappear.
Puppies and rainbows.
will certainly give a new flair to the major program spaces with their inclusion there this year, to say the least. Well, I so appreciate both of you sharing really what's first and foremost in your mind about the conference. Paul, think you hit the nail on the head. There's a reason that people is the first of the three elements of the theme. So I think that's shown loud and clear through your comments. And Melissa, we will look forward to seeing you in that mask, hopefully in some way, shape, or form during our time in NOLA. So once again, thanks to you both for being guests today, and we look forward to seeing hopefully a number of our listeners here at ATP in NOLA in just several weeks. For those of you who have taken the time to listen to the podcast today, thank you so much for your time shared with us, and as always, look for a new episode to be out in 2 weeks. In the meantime, be safe and be well. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Bye, Paul. Bye, Rory.
Right.